It was a quiet evening in the small fishing village of Shag Harbour, nestled along the rugged coast of Nova Scotia. The Atlantic waves lapped gently against the weathered wooden piers, and the scent of salt hung lightly in the cool night air. In 1967, life in Shag Harbour moved at the steady rhythm of the ocean. Fishermen mended their nets, children played near the docks, and families prepared their evening meals. The townspeople, accustomed to the unpredictability of the sea, had learned to respect its moods, understanding that its calm could be deceiving and its storms could arrive without warning. On this particular night, however, there was a calm unlike any other, a deceptive serenity that would soon be interrupted by an event so strange it would linger in local memory for decades. The sky was clear, the moon casting a silvery glow over the bay. Stars shimmered faintly, seemingly watching over the village, as if the heavens themselves had paused, holding their breath. It was the kind of night that felt suspended in time, a night where even the most ordinary details, the soft creak of a boat, the rustle of leaves, the distant cry of a seagull, were imbued with significance. Residents recalled later that there was something almost electric in the air, a quiet tension that seemed to hum just beneath the surface. Perhaps it was the approach of winter, or the lingering echoes of a long, hot summer, but whatever it was, the town seemed poised on the edge of something unexplainable. For those who lived in Shag Harbour, the sea was both companion and mystery. Generations of fishermen had learned to read its moods, understanding that beneath its surface lay currents, rocks, and hidden dangers. Many locals had spent their lives studying the tides and winds, yet even the most seasoned fishermen could not have anticipated what was about to unfold. The stories they would later tell began not with fear, but with curiosity, a slow, creeping wonder at a phenomenon that defied the ordinary. It was this sense of wonder mixed with unease that would color every memory of that night, setting the stage for one of the most intriguing mysteries in Canadian history. As evening deepened into night, residents began to notice a faint light moving across the horizon. At first it was subtle, a glimmer, almost like a reflection of the moon on the water, but then it became more distinct, brighter, more deliberate. Those who saw it initially questioned, their eyes blinking, shielding their faces, wondering if it could be a plane, a distant lighthouse, or perhaps even a trick of the clouds. Yet the light moved in ways that no ordinary object should. It seemed to glide silently, unhurried, almost floating, before suddenly descending toward the waters of the bay. Imagine the scene, a quiet, peaceful village interrupted by a movement so strange that it caused even the most rational minds to hesitate. Families paused mid-conversation, fishermen left their boats unattended, and a few brave souls stepped closer to the shoreline, straining to see what could possibly be moving in the dark waters below. The narrative of that night is not one of chaos, but of quiet, collective astonishment, a town collectively witnessing the impossible. There was no panic, no immediate understanding, only the profound sensation that something extraordinary had arrived. Psychologists who later studied eyewitness accounts often remark on the way human perception reacts to unexplainable events. On that night in Shag Harbour, the senses of the villagers were heightened in ways both subtle and profound. The mind, accustomed to the familiar rhythm of life by the sea, suddenly confronted the unfamiliar. Shadows seemed to shift more quickly, the sound of the water seemed louder, and the chill of the night air felt sharper. Yet alongside these physiological reactions was a calm, almost meditative curiosity. Those who watched the light reported a strange serenity, a hypnotic quality to the scene that drew them closer, even as it defied understanding. It is this paradox, the coexistence of awe and peace, of intrigue and comfort, that makes the story of Shag Harbour so perfectly suited for a bedtime tale. It is important to remember that, while the events were mysterious, they were also grounded in reality. Shag Harbour was not a place prone to fantasy or legend. It was a working fishing village, where life was measured in tides and seasons, not myths. Yet history often reminds us that extraordinary events have a way of intruding upon the ordinary, reminding communities of the vastness of the unknown. In this case, the ordinary rhythm of Shag Harbour life, dinners prepared, boats mended, children tucked into bed, was about to intersect with something entirely outside human experience. The town would wake the next morning, not only with memories of a strange light in the night sky, but with the first hints of a mystery that would puzzle authorities, researchers, and curious minds for generations. As we settle into this tale, it is worth taking a moment to breathe, to feel the calm of the sea, the cool air on your skin, and the hush of a village on the edge of something extraordinary. Let your mind drift with the gentle sway of the Atlantic waves, imagining the soft glow of a light descending from the sky into the waters of Shag Harbour. This is a story of observation, of human curiosity, of the unknown slipping quietly into our lives. It is a tale meant not to alarm, but to fascinate, to lull you into a reflective state, where mystery and relaxation intertwine. And so, under the silvery light of the moon, and the quiet gaze of distant stars, the night in Shag Harbour quietly holds its breath. Something remarkable is about to unfold, and the residents of this small village are unknowingly at the threshold of one of Canada's most enduring mysteries. We begin our journey here, in the calm before the extraordinary, allowing the story to gently carry us into the unknown.
The date was October 4th, 1967, a crisp autumn night in Shag Harbour, where the air held both the faint chill of approaching winter and the lingering warmth of summer days past. The village had settled into its usual evening rhythm. Boats were tied to their docks, lanterns glowed softly in windows, and the faint scent of smoke from wood stoves drifted through the streets. Yet, as the hours deepened, the ordinary hum of the night was pierced by something extraordinary, a sight that would forever mark this unassuming corner of Nova Scotia. At first, it was difficult to comprehend what was happening. Residents noticed a bright moving light in the sky above the bay. It appeared large, unusually bright, and unlike anything familiar. Some assumed it was a plane on approach, or perhaps a meteor streaking across the night. But as the moments passed, the object did not behave as either a plane or a natural celestial phenomenon should. It hovered, gliding silently in the sky, moving with a fluidity that seemed almost deliberate. Its light reflected on the water in shimmering patterns, casting an eerie, almost hypnotic glow across the quiet harbor. Among the first to notice the strange movement was Lori Wickens, a local resident, along with a group of friends. They were returning from an evening walk when their eyes caught the glow over the water. What they initially assumed to be a floating light or an unusual star quickly transformed into something entirely unrecognizable. They described it later as a large, rounded object, low in the sky, descending slowly toward the surface of the water. Its lights pulsed, changing intensity in a pattern that no human-made aircraft would mimic. There was no sound, not even the distant hum of engines, only a surreal, quiet presence that seemed to dominate the night itself. The reaction among the townspeople was a mixture of astonishment and disbelief. Fishermen left their nets on the docks, curious families stepped into doorways, and a few adventurous souls took to their small boats, rowing carefully toward the light. No one panicked, but the atmosphere was heavy with a strange energy, the kind that makes ordinary nights feel longer, as if time itself has slowed to accommodate the impossible. This slow unfolding of events allowed everyone present to absorb the scene fully, to register each detail, from the object's size and shape to the color and behavior of its lights. Witness accounts later emphasized the same qualities: silent movement, unusual brightness, and a descent that did not fit any known aircraft pattern. As the object neared the water, a sense of urgency began to creep into the observations. Residents assumed that something had crashed, a plane, perhaps, but when they neared the shoreline, there was no smoke, no fire, no debris in sight. Instead, the water seemed disturbed in a way that suggested a massive submerged presence, accompanied by a yellowish foamy substance that floated along the surface. Some witnesses reported seeing ripples and bubbles, almost as if the water itself were reacting to the descent of an enormous, unseen body. It was a moment that combined elements of natural observation with the surreal, a collision between the ordinary and the extraordinary that would haunt those present for decades. By now, the residents realized that this was no ordinary incident. Laurie Wickens and his friends acted with a calm decisiveness that would later be remembered as crucial. They contacted the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, RCMP, reporting the unusual object and its descent into the water. Officers responded quickly, arriving at the scene to investigate. The RCMP records describe this initial report as something unusual, but not immediately identifiable. There was no suggestion of extraterrestrial involvement at this stage, only a concern for possible human lives at risk. Authorities approached the situation methodically, sending officers to the shoreline to survey the area and ensuring that the situation remained under control. As night deepened, more residents joined, drawn by curiosity and concern. The shoreline became a gathering of ordinary people witnessing the extraordinary. They watched as the lights hovered, then vanished slowly beneath the water, leaving behind a mysterious foam and a profound silence. The RCMP and local authorities took notes, collected statements, and attempted to reconcile eyewitness reports with known explanations. Yet, even at this early stage, the event defied simple categorization. No aircraft had been scheduled to fly over the area at that time, and no meteorological phenomena could fully account for the light and movement described. Psychologists and UFO researchers have often noted the clarity and consistency of multiple witness accounts in Shag Harbour. Unlike reports that arise from a single perspective, this incident involved dozens of observers, from fishermen to teams, to law enforcement officers. Each description shared certain key details: a large object, glowing lights, silent movement, and a sudden descent into the waters of the bay. The collective testimony provided both credibility and an eerie sense of realism. People were not seeing illusions or hallucinations. They were witnessing something that genuinely disrupted the normal rhythm of their lives. Even in these early moments, the scene carried a paradoxical mixture of calm and tension. There was the awe of witnessing something unusual, and the subtle anxiety of encountering the unknown. For listeners, this moment can be imagined almost physically, standing at the edge of the water, feeling the night air against the skin, hearing the gentle lap of waves, and watching a strange light moving across the dark surface. The scene is vivid yet soothing, a slow revelation that draws attention to detail while encouraging relaxation, a gentle immersion into mystery that feels both real and dreamlike. By the end of the night, the residents of Shag Harbour were forever changed. The ordinary rhythms of their lives had been interrupted by an event that could not be explained by conventional means. Boats returned to their docks, lights in homes were turned off, and the village slowly returned to quiet. Yet, the object's descent into the waters of the bay had already set in motion a series of investigations and rumors that would capture the attention of the Canadian government, naval authorities, and UFO researchers around the world. That night became the first chapter in a story that would blend fact, eyewitness testimony, and speculation into one of the most enduring mysteries of the 20th century. As you imagine this night, let your mind drift with the lights above the quiet Atlantic waters. Feel the stillness, the soft waves, and the gentle anticipation of what lies beneath. This is the moment when ordinary life touches the extraordinary, when reality and mystery converge in a way that both fascinates and calms, a perfect doorway into the story of Shag Harbour, where the unknown gently settles over a quiet village, inviting you to follow it into the depths of a mystery that continues to this day. As the mysterious object descended into the waters of Shag Harbour, the village slowly came alive with a quiet urgency. Families who had been finishing their evening meals or reading by the fire now found themselves drawn to windows and doorways, curious about the strange glow reflected on the calm waters. Fishermen, who had spent their lives reading the moods of the Atlantic, were among the first to venture out onto the docks, their practiced eyes trying to discern whether what they saw could possibly be explained by waves, a distant light, or an ordinary vessel. But deep down, they knew this was something different, something unaccountable. The first to step closer were a small group of local men, including Laurie Wickens and his friends, who had already witnessed the light in the sky. With lanterns in hand and the chill of the night pressing in, they moved toward the shoreline. Their steps were careful but deliberate, each creak of the wooden boards beneath their feet echoing in the otherwise quiet village. The foam on the water's surface glowed faintly under the lantern light, rippling with an unusual shimmer. The object itself was no longer visible above the water, but the lingering glow hinted at something massive beneath the surface, moving slowly, almost imperceptibly, as if it were aware of the people watching above. Word of the strange event spread quickly. Neighbors emerged from their homes, curiosity overcoming routine. Some brought binoculars, others simply squinted into the night. Conversations were hushed and cautious, yet tinged with excitement. What could this possibly be? Many villagers recalled later that there was no fear in that first moment, only a profound sense of wonder and the human instinct to bear witness. This collective observation created a unique dynamic, as dozens of perspectives converged to form a composite understanding of the scene. Psychologists note that when multiple eyewitnesses observe an unusual event together, the resulting accounts are often more consistent and reliable, especially when the observers are calm and attentive, as they were that night. As residents approached the water, their initial assumptions began to shift. What some thought might be a plane crash or a downed helicopter revealed itself to be something far more puzzling. The surface of the bay showed no debris, no wreckage, and no signs of human distress. Instead, there was the strange yellowish foam floating across the water, accompanied by gentle ripples that moved in ways that defied natural explanation. For those present, this subtle anomaly, the foam, the disturbed water, the inexplicable glow, was more unsettling than any fiery crash could have been. It signaled that they were witnessing something entirely unfamiliar, an event that the ordinary rules of experience could not account for. Local authorities were notified almost immediately. Laurie Wickens and others contacted the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, RCMP, who arrived at the scene with calm efficiency. Officers listened carefully to the reports, noting the details of the light, the descent, and the unusual appearance of the water. At first, they approached the event with standard procedures, checking for missing aircraft, assessing potential hazards, and securing the area. Yet even for trained law enforcement officers, the scene was unlike anything they had previously encountered. Their reports would later describe the glowing object and the strange foam on the water as unidentifiable, an official acknowledgement that the situation had entered a realm beyond conventional explanation. Some villagers, more daring than others, took small boats out into the bay, cautiously approaching the area where the object had disappeared beneath the waves. They were careful to maintain distance, aware of the deep Atlantic waters and the cold night air. The water was unusually still, almost as if the ocean itself were holding its breath, and every movement of the boat caused small, unexpected ripples across the reflective surface. Observers reported seeing a faint, residual glow beneath the waves, pulsating gently, as though the object remained present in some hidden form. This underwater luminescence would become one of the most intriguing aspects of the incident, noted repeatedly by multiple eyewitnesses in subsequent interviews. The collective response of the village created a sense of shared experience that would shape Shag Harbour's identity for decades. Everyone present, from teenagers to fishermen to RCMP officers, became part of a narrative that blurred the line between observation and participation. Researchers later emphasized the importance of such community involvement in UFO sightings, noting that group witness accounts are often more detailed and internally consistent than isolated reports. In Shag Harbour, this phenomenon allowed for a rich and multi-layered understanding of the event, with dozens of perspectives reinforcing key details: the silent descent, the glowing lights, the foam, and the impossibility of a conventional explanation. Psychologically, the villagers' reactions illustrate a fascinating interplay of curiosity, rationality, and wonder. On one hand, humans are naturally inclined to explain the unknown using familiar concepts: planes, boats, natural phenomena. On the other hand, when confronted with something genuinely unexplainable, the mind adapts, heightening attention, sharpening senses, and allowing for careful, deliberate observation. The residents of Shag Harbour demonstrated this balance perfectly. They were alert but calm, intrigued but careful, embodying the ideal witnesses to an event that would challenge both imagination and scientific scrutiny. As the night wore on, the shoreline gradually quieted, but the collective memory of what had been seen lingered. Families returned to their homes, fishermen secured their boats, and RCMP officers documented the scene with careful notes and sketches. Yet the extraordinary nature of the incident left an imprint that could not be erased. Something remarkable had entered the ordinary life of Shag Harbour, leaving both visible and invisible traces: the glow beneath the water, the peculiar foam, and the sense that the night had revealed a fragment of something much larger than anyone could comprehend. For those listening now, imagine standing at that shoreline, feeling the chill of the night air on your skin, hearing the soft lap of waves against the docks, and sensing the stillness of the Atlantic around you. The village watches quietly, hearts steady, minds alert, taking in every subtle detail. This is a story of calm observation, of ordinary lives intersecting with the extraordinary, and of a community gently drawn into a mystery that would persist long after the lights disappeared beneath the water. The villagers' first reactions, curiosity, caution, and wonder, set the stage for the investigations, theories, and cultural legacy that would follow, making this night not just a moment in history, but a doorway into one of Canada's most enduring enigmas. As the night in Shag Harbour unfolded, what had begun as a quiet observation by curious villagers soon escalated into a matter requiring official attention. The unusual descent of a glowing object into the waters of the bay could not be ignored, and within hours, local authorities had been informed. Laurie Wickens, along with a few other residents who had witnessed the strange lights, had contacted the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, RCMP. Officers responded with the kind of methodical professionalism typical of law enforcement in small Canadian towns. But even they were quickly confronted with a scenario that challenged conventional understanding. The RCMP dispatched officers to the shoreline to investigate, taking careful notes and attempting to reconcile multiple witness accounts. They spoke with fishermen, families, and teams alike, piecing together a picture of a large silent object moving through the sky and disappearing beneath the surface of the Atlantic. In official records, the incident was initially treated as a potential aircraft crash, a logical assumption given the observable descent and the presence of lights. But as more information came in, the object resisted any easy categorization. No plane had been reported missing in the area, and no commercial flights were scheduled at that time. The officers noted these discrepancies carefully, recording the unusual aspects of the night in detail. Soon the Canadian Coast Guard became involved. Boats were dispatched to comb the waters of the bay for any sign of debris or survivors. The divers and sailors who arrived were trained in search and rescue operations, yet the scene they encountered was unlike any standard maritime emergency. The water appeared disturbed, with ripples and foam in peculiar patterns, but there was no identifiable wreckage. Despite systematic searches, using the tools and methods of the day, nothing was recovered. Observers reported an eerie, lingering glow beneath the waves, a subtle indication that whatever had entered the water was not ordinary. Calm yet precise narration of these early searches emphasizes the reality of trained professionals encountering a phenomenon beyond explanation, a key element in lending credibility to the story. As officers and Coast Guard personnel worked through the night, communications were sent to higher levels of authority. Naval representatives and government officials were informed, adding layers of protocol and bureaucratic response. Reports indicate that some Navy personnel were skeptical at first, considering the possibility of a misidentified aircraft or meteorological phenomenon. Yet the persistence of eyewitness accounts, combined with the failure to locate any conventional explanation, forced authorities to acknowledge the event's unusual nature. Declassified documents later revealed that the object was described in official language as an unknown submersible object of significant size, a phrasing that was carefully neutral but nonetheless notable. The residents of Shag Harbour continued to watch from the shore, their curiosity and concern undimmed by the arrival of authorities. Many later recounted the strange tension of that night, an interplay between ordinary human activity, officers taking notes, boats patrolling the bay, and the lingering sense of something extraordinary beneath the water. It was as if the village had entered a liminal space, one where the familiar rhythms of life coexisted uneasily with the unexplainable. Psychologists studying eyewitness response to unusual events often describe this mixture of calm focus and heightened awareness as the hallmark of credible testimony. In Shag Harbour, this combination of civilian observation and official scrutiny created a rich and detailed account of the night, laying a foundation for decades of investigation. The initial reports were eventually consolidated and sent to higher governmental bodies, including the Department of National Defense. Researchers later noted that this was unusual for a sighting that could easily have been dismissed. The involvement of multiple agencies lent the incident a seriousness that was rare in cases of unidentified objects. In interviews, some officers admitted feeling a mixture of professional duty and personal bewilderment. They were trained to categorize and resolve situations, yet here was an event that defied categorization entirely. The combination of disciplined investigation and human curiosity created a scene of quiet tension, authorities acting methodically, witnesses observing intently, and a glowing mystery lying just beneath the water's surface. The night's events were documented with care. Statements were taken, sketches were made, and notes were filed. Even the smallest details, the pattern of foam on the water, the faint glow observed by multiple witnesses, the lack of sound from the object, were recorded meticulously. This attention to detail not only provides credibility to the narrative, but also allows listeners to visualize the scene. Officers kneeling on the dock, flashlights tracing the shimmering water, and the soft hum of waves mingling with hushed conversations. It is a scene that combines the tangible with the mysterious, grounding the extraordinary in a reality that feels entirely believable. By the time the night began to give way to early morning, the initial wave of activity had established the framework for what would become one of Canada's most enduring mysteries. Authorities had done their part, observations had been recorded, searches conducted, and reports filed. Yet, despite all this diligence, the object remained elusive. Its presence was undeniable, but its identity was unknowable. For the villagers who had first witnessed the event, the authorities' involvement lent weight to their experience, confirming that they had seen something that could not easily be dismissed. And for future researchers, this combination of eyewitness testimony and official documentation would become one of the strongest pillars supporting the mystery of Shag Harbour. As we imagine this night, picture the calm efficiency of officers moving along the shoreline, the quiet murmur of neighbors observing from a distance, and the soft ripple of the Atlantic under the pale glow of a mysterious light. There is no panic, only steady curiosity, careful observation, and the gradual realization that the ordinary world has intersected with something extraordinary. This is the point in our story where human diligence meets the unknown, where rumors solidify into reports, and where a quiet village finds itself at the center of a mystery that will captivate the imagination of generations to come. As the first reports of the Shag Harbour incident reached authorities and the wider community, speculation began to swirl. For those standing on the quiet shoreline, the question was immediate and personal. What had descended into the cold Atlantic waters that night? Was it a plane, as initially suspected, a secret military experiment, or something far stranger, something beyond the boundaries of conventional explanation? The unusual nature of the object and its disappearance beneath the waves left observers and experts alike grasping for answers, and over the years, a variety of theories would emerge, each attempting to reconcile the inexplicable with what was known. Among the most logical explanations considered at the time was the possibility of an aircraft accident, Nova Scotia's skies were occasionally crossed by commercial and private flights, and the descent of a glowing object could at first glance appear consistent with a plane in distress. Yet, investigators quickly noted inconsistencies with this theory. No aircraft were reported missing in the region, no debris washed ashore, and no distress signals had been detected. Moreover, the object exhibited behaviors inconsistent with any known aircraft: silent movement, sudden directional changes, and the ability to seemingly descend into the water without producing turbulence or audible noise. Even skeptics acknowledged that if this had been a plane, it was unlike any ever seen or recorded. Another plausible, though equally mysterious, hypothesis was that the object was related to a military experiment. The 1960s were a period of intense Cold War activity, with both Canada and the United States engaged in secretive research and testing. It was not beyond the realm of possibility that a prototype vehicle, submersible, aerial, or both, had been operating in the waters off Nova Scotia. Some researchers suggested that the glowing lights and unusual behavior could have been the product of advanced technology, unknown to civilians, or even some branches of the military. However, official records, later obtained through declassified documents, showed no indication that any military operation of this nature was scheduled in the area at that time. The secrecy of military activity might have concealed details, but it could not fully explain the consistency and multiplicity of civilian eyewitness accounts. For many, the most captivating explanation was, of course, the extraterrestrial hypothesis. Eyewitnesses repeatedly described a large, glowing object moving with purpose and precision, descending silently into the waters and leaving behind an unusual foamy substance on the surface. Such observations suggested an intelligence behind the craft's movement, something that could operate outside the limitations of conventional aircraft. Researchers within the UFO community have long pointed to Shag Harbour as one of the most credible cases, emphasizing the sheer number of witnesses, the presence of trained observers, such as RCMP officers, and the corroboration of physical anomalies, like the foamy substance and unusual water disturbances. In this view, the incident was not merely an oddity, but a potential encounter with a craft of unknown origin, slipping beneath the waves with a quiet, almost deliberate grace. The local population also contributed to the developing narrative of the night. Fishermen, who had spent decades studying the sea and its moods, reported phenomena that went beyond the simple observation of lights. Some claimed to have seen subtle movements beneath the water, hints of a submerged shape that shifted and pulsed in ways inconsistent with natural underwater currents. The yellowish foam on the surface, observed by multiple individuals, became a central point of discussion and speculation. Experts in marine science suggested it could be natural surfactants or decomposing algae, yet the pattern and timing of its appearance corresponded precisely with the object's descent, making purely natural explanations less convincing. Even decades later, these early observations remain an essential part of Shag Harbour's mystery, bridging the gap between eyewitness testimony and physical evidence. Adding to the intrigue were reports of radar contacts and other anomalies detected by naval or governmental monitoring stations. While documentation is limited, some researchers argue that the presence of multiple forms of observation, visual, tactile, and electronic, strengthens the credibility of the incident. If these claims are accurate, they suggest that the object was not merely a trick of light or a hallucination, but a tangible phenomenon that interacted with both human observers and the environment. Even today, debates continue about whether these radar blips were misinterpretations or genuine evidence of something extraordinary lurking beneath the Atlantic surface. In the years following the incident, skeptics have proposed alternative explanations grounded in atmospheric and environmental phenomena. Meteors, ball lightning, or unusual reflections on the water have all been suggested as potential causes for what villagers witnessed. While these natural phenomena can sometimes account for brief, inexplicable lights, they fail to explain the duration, consistency, and movement of the object described in multiple eyewitness accounts. The combined observations of civilians, law enforcement officers, and maritime professionals present a challenge to these naturalistic theories, leaving an unresolved tension between what is plausible and what is truly mysterious. Psychologists studying human perception and group observation have noted that incidents like Shag Harbour offer a rare combination of calm, consistent, and credible testimony. Unlike fleeting or panicked encounters, the witnesses that night had time to observe, reflect, and discuss their experiences. The community's response, a combination of curiosity, caution, and collaborative investigation, created a living record of the event. These collective observations form the backbone of the many theories that emerged, ensuring that the mystery was not simply anecdotal, but anchored in repeated, verifiable human experience. Ultimately, the night of October 4, 1967, at Shag Harbour presents a layered puzzle. On the surface, there are logical, earthly explanations: aircraft, secret experiments, or environmental phenomena. Beneath that surface lies the suggestion of something far more enigmatic: a silent submersible object of unknown origin, witnessed by a community that straddled the line between normalcy and the extraordinary. Each theory offers partial insight, but none fully resolves the mystery. It is precisely this ambiguity that gives the story its enduring power, allowing both curiosity and calm reflection to coexist, a perfect framework for a tale meant to intrigue, while easing listeners toward rest. As we imagine standing on the quiet shoreline once more, picture the gentle lapping of waves, the soft rustle of wind through the docks, and the faint yellowish foam glowing beneath the surface. Let your mind drift with the multiple possibilities, from the rational to the fantastical, all the while maintaining a sense of calm. This is the moment where mystery deepens, where theories surface and dissolve, leaving only the quiet certainty that the night has shared something extraordinary with those who were present. The unknown lingers, not as a source of fear, but as a gentle, captivating invitation to wonder, ponder, and relax, a paradox that defines the very essence of the Shag Harbour incident. As the initial observations settled into official reports, a new chapter of the Shag Harbour mystery began to unfold beneath the waves. Authorities quickly recognized that if the object had indeed submerged in the cold Atlantic waters, trained divers would be needed to investigate. Within hours, the Royal Canadian Navy dispatched a team of skilled divers, experienced in both salvage operations and deep water searches, to explore the area. The village, quiet but still curious, watched as boats were prepared and lights set along the shoreline, marking the beginning of a methodical descent into the unknown. The divers approached the waters with both caution and a sense of professionalism. Equipped with early deep-sea gear, they descended into the murky depths, navigating the strong currents and low visibility of the North Atlantic. The sea at Shag Harbour was familiar to local fishermen, yet for these divers, it became a landscape of uncertainty and intrigue. Every ripple, shadow, and movement took on heightened significance. What they found, or did not find, would become one of the most intriguing aspects of the incident. Though official reports were sparse, eyewitnesses described seeing boats circling the area for hours, lights reflecting on the water, and occasional flashes from beneath the surface, as if the submerged object were still there, silently moving just beyond human perception. One of the most remarkable aspects of the dive operations was the reported interaction between the divers and the mysterious object. While documentation remains limited, several researchers and eyewitnesses have recounted that the divers observed unusual disturbances in the water, which did not correspond with known marine life or currents. The movement was deliberate and rhythmic, suggesting a large submerged structure or craft. No physical debris was recovered, but the pattern of foam, ripples, and faint lights hinted at a presence that was both tangible and elusive. The divers' logs, later referenced in UFO research circles, described conditions that were highly unusual: calm waters punctuated by localized disturbances, and subtle changes in color and reflection, almost as if the object were reacting to their approach. As the Navy continued their searches, secrecy quickly became a dominant factor. Official statements were minimal, leaving both villagers and the broader public with incomplete information. This lack of transparency fueled speculation and curiosity, particularly among researchers studying UFO phenomena. Some have argued that the Navy may have recovered evidence of a submerged craft, but for reasons of national security or unexplained anomaly, the details were never disclosed. The ambiguity surrounding these operations added a layer of mystery, reinforcing the perception that the Shag Harbour incident was not merely an ordinary maritime event, but a window into something far more extraordinary. Eyewitnesses on the shore reported the persistent glow of lights beneath the water, faint and shifting, even as the divers conducted their sweeps. Some claimed that the lights moved in response to the divers' movements, vanishing and reappearing in ways that defied logical explanation. These accounts, when combined with the Navy's methodical yet inconclusive investigation, suggest a phenomenon that was both physical and enigmatic, a presence that could be observed and documented, yet remained frustratingly elusive. For the villagers, this was a continuation of the same quiet wonder that had begun on the evening of October 4th. The calm persistence of observation, paired with the strange behaviors of the object, created a shared sense of awe and mystery that has persisted for decades. Researchers who have studied Shag Harbour extensively point to the consistency of these diver accounts as evidence of the incident's credibility. Unlike isolated sightings or single witness reports, the combination of trained divers, law enforcement officers, and numerous civilian observers creates a multi-layered record of the event. Each perspective corroborates key details: the presence of a glowing object, its descent into the water, and the unusual disturbances observed beneath the surface. Even the absence of physical recovery adds weight to the mystery. Sometimes, what is not found can be as telling as what is. The missing evidence, in this case, strengthens the sense that the object was not a conventional aircraft or maritime vessel, but something entirely beyond ordinary experience. The divers' observations also introduced a psychological dimension to the story. Professional individuals, trained to categorize and analyze underwater phenomena, found themselves encountering the inexplicable. Their calm, disciplined reactions, combined with subtle hints of astonishment, lent an air of credibility to the narrative. Psychologists studying these accounts note that trained observers are less likely to misinterpret ordinary events, making the divers' testimony particularly compelling. In Shag Harbour, this created a rare convergence: multiple credible observers simultaneously witnessing a phenomenon that remained outside conventional understanding. Even today, debates persist about what the divers saw. Some researchers suggest that the object may have been a craft of unknown origin, capable of submersible movement. Others propose it was a natural or man-made anomaly that interacted with the water in unusual ways. Whatever the truth, the diver reports remain central to the Shag Harbour mystery. They demonstrate a layered observation process, careful, systematic, yet ultimately inconclusive, that invites reflection rather than resolution. For listeners, this evokes a slow descent into the unknown, imagining the divers moving quietly through dark waters, beams of light cutting through the depths, and the subtle movements of something just beyond their reach. The secrecy surrounding the naval operations added to the village's sense of wonder. Over time, rumors circulated that the divers had witnessed something remarkable, perhaps even a submerged craft moving under its own power, but that official channels had suppressed the details. Historians note that during the Cold War, secrecy was common, especially regarding unidentified phenomena in Canadian waters. The combination of military presence, official investigation, and incomplete public disclosure created an atmosphere in which fact and speculation intertwined seamlessly. This interplay between known evidence and hidden details is a hallmark of Shag Harbour's enduring mystery, a puzzle that has captivated the imagination of both researchers and casual observers alike. For the listener, imagine the calm but tense underwater scene: divers moving slowly, currents whispering past, beams of light cutting through a dark, mysterious depth, and faint, shifting glows hinting at the presence of something beyond ordinary comprehension. The silence is profound, punctuated only by the gentle movement of water and the occasional murmur from the surface above. This scene, rich in both realism and mystery, allows the mind to wander gently into curiosity while maintaining the sense of calm necessary for a bedtime story. The diver investigations, though not fully revealing the nature of the object, reinforced the idea that Shag Harbour was the site of an event that was both witnessed and documented, yet ultimately inexplicable. The night's occurrences, the observations of trained professionals, and the persistent reports of unusual activity under the waves created a tapestry of mystery that continues to fascinate to this day. It is in this calm intersection of fact, observation, and unknown that the story of Shag Harbour truly comes alive, carrying listeners gently into the depths of a mystery that is as much about human perception as it is about the possible presence of something extraordinary beneath the waves. As the events of October 4, 1967, unfolded in Shag Harbour, the story slowly began to reach beyond the quiet village itself. Local authorities had conducted their initial investigations, divers had scoured the waters, and eyewitnesses had shared their accounts, but the broader public remained largely unaware, at least initially. The first reports in newspapers were cautious, often framed with skepticism or hedged with uncertainty. Headlines described unidentified object spotted in Nova Scotia waters, or mysterious light descends into Shag Harbour, careful to present the story without implying sensational conclusions. Yet, even in these understated accounts, a spark of intrigue was ignited, both among local readers and those in distant cities who stumbled upon the unusual tale. Journalists, like observers and authorities before them, found themselves confronting an event that defied simple explanation. Interviews with villagers captured the quiet astonishment of those who had witnessed the light descend into the waters. Yet, editors struggled with how to report on the incident responsibly. Many feared accusations of exaggeration or sensationalism. Nevertheless, the story began to take shape in print. Fishermen, describing the foamy water, the silent glowing object, and the methodical presence of RCMP officers and naval divers. Readers could almost feel themselves standing on the docks, breathing the cool Atlantic air, and watching as a light, unlike any plane or meteor, descended silently into the bay. Government agencies, meanwhile, maintained an air of deliberate silence. While initial reports had been filed, and divers had conducted searches, official statements remained minimal. The Department of National Defense and the Canadian Coast Guard offered only neutral assessments, acknowledging the sighting, but avoiding speculation about its nature. This silence was both frustrating and compelling. To the public, the lack of a clear explanation suggested that something significant had occurred, yet it was being withheld, perhaps deliberately. Historians note that during the Cold War, government agencies were especially cautious when dealing with unidentified phenomena, often keeping details confidential to avoid public panic or to protect sensitive information. In the case of Shag Harbour, this quiet discretion only intensified the sense of mystery. The combination of media coverage and government reticence created a unique environment for public fascination. Letters to local newspapers poured in, with readers sharing their own theories or recounting similar experiences. Amateur researchers and UFO enthusiasts began corresponding with authorities and eyewitnesses, piecing together narratives and speculating about the possible origin of the object. Some proposed natural explanations: a meteor breaking apart over the Atlantic, unusual atmospheric reflections, or even a secret experimental aircraft. Others embraced more extraordinary interpretations, suggesting that Shag Harbour had witnessed a genuine encounter with an unidentified, possibly extraterrestrial craft. Over time, these discussions cemented the event's status as one of Canada's most intriguing unexplained mysteries. Psychologists studying public reactions to UFO sightings often point to the balance between skepticism and curiosity. In Shag Harbour, this dynamic was clearly visible. Many readers and observers initially approached the story with doubt, yet the consistency of eyewitness accounts and the involvement of authorities lent credibility. Even as newspapers reported with caution, the public could sense the weight of the event, multiple trained observers, physical anomalies in the water, and the methodical investigation of naval divers. The tension between what could be officially confirmed and what was reported in detail created a sense of layered reality, inviting curiosity without inciting alarm. International media began to take note as well, although reports outside Nova Scotia remained limited. In the United States and Europe, newspapers occasionally referenced the incident, often in the context of the growing fascination with UFOs during the 1960s. The Cold War era was marked by both technological advancement and public anxiety, a climate in which sightings of unidentified objects captured imaginations more easily than in other decades. Analysts have argued that Shag Harbour's story resonated globally, not only because of the mystery itself, but because it reflected broader cultural concerns: the unknown, the unexplained, and humanity's small place in a vast, often incomprehensible universe. In the village, public fascination was immediate and personal. Local residents, once quietly observing from their doorways, became part of a narrative larger than themselves. The shoreline, still calm under the October sky, served as a stage where ordinary people had encountered the extraordinary. Families shared recollections of the event for years afterward, passing the story from generation to generation. School children grew up hearing tales of glowing lights, foam on the water, and naval divers exploring the depths. In this way, the incident became woven into the cultural fabric of Shag Harbour itself, a gentle reminder that reality can sometimes brush against the inexplicable in quiet, profound ways. Researchers and UFO enthusiasts continued to follow the incident over the decades. Investigations, interviews, and even unofficial reports slowly accumulated, forming a patchwork record that blended witness testimony, government documentation, and journalistic accounts. The Canadian government's continued discretion added layers of intrigue, reinforcing the perception that Shag Harbour had witnessed something genuinely extraordinary. For listeners today, this combination of media reporting, official silence, and public fascination creates a calm yet compelling narrative rhythm, drawing attention to detail while maintaining a sense of serene curiosity. Perhaps the most captivating aspect of this stage in the story is the interplay between the ordinary and the extraordinary. Newspapers, bureaucracies, and everyday villagers all intersected at the site of the event, creating a collective narrative shaped by observation, record-keeping, and reflection. The calm, methodical response of authorities, the measured curiosity of journalists, and the quiet fascination of residents all contribute to a layered story that is both believable and enigmatic. This duality, fact mingling seamlessly with mystery, is what gives Shag Harbour its enduring power as a tale of intrigue that also soothes, allowing listeners to drift into contemplation while being gently immersed in the unknown. As we imagine this time, picture the village in the early morning hours following the incident, newspapers arriving with cautious headlines, lights in homes flickering softly as families discuss what they had seen, and the shoreline returning to calm, even as the Atlantic holds secrets just beneath its surface. The subtle tension between what was known and what remained hidden creates a quiet fascination, inviting the imagination to explore possibilities without urgency, to ponder mysteries without alarm. Shag Harbour, through media coverage and public intrigue, had become a place where the ordinary and the extraordinary coexisted, where reality met wonder, and where the unknown was met with quiet curiosity. A perfect landscape for a bedtime journey into mystery. In the decades following the Shag Harbour incident, the village and the world around it quietly absorbed the story, allowing it to evolve into a cultural touchstone. While the event itself occurred in 1967, its influence rippled outward in ways that few could have anticipated. The glowing lights over the bay, the foam drifting across the water, and the silent descent of the unknown object became more than a local memory. They became symbols of mystery, curiosity, and the enduring human fascination with the unexplained. Residents spoke of the night for years, and Shag Harbour gradually transformed into a place of pilgrimage for UFO enthusiasts, historians, and curious travelers seeking to touch the echoes of an event that had defied conventional explanation. Over time, the story of Shag Harbour entered popular culture. Documentaries, books, and television programs explored the incident in measured factual ways, emphasizing eyewitness accounts and official reports. Unlike sensationalized tales, these narratives preserve the calm, methodical quality of the original events, highlighting the credibility of witnesses and the rigor of the investigations conducted by authorities. Researchers consistently pointed out the rare combination of factors present in this case: multiple reliable observers, involvement of RCMP and naval personnel, and a tangible disturbance in the water. These elements made Shag Harbour a cornerstone for the study of unidentified aerial and submersible phenomena, bridging folklore and scientific curiosity in a way that was both respectful and compelling. The village itself embraced its mysterious legacy with quiet pride. Annual events, small exhibitions, and guided tours began to commemorate the incident, blending education with reflection. Residents shared stories passed down from those who had witnessed the lights and foam, preserving their recollections with careful attention to detail. Local historians and amateur researchers meticulously documented testimonies, creating archives that offered both context and credibility. This grassroots effort helped to maintain the memory of the night, while providing a resource for scientists, writers, and curious minds seeking to understand what had occurred. In this way, Shag Harbour became not just a place on the map, but a locus of thoughtful investigation and gentle intrigue. Modern investigations have continued to probe the mystery with new tools and methodologies. Advances in sonar, underwater mapping, and environmental monitoring have allowed researchers to revisit the bay with a level of precision unimaginable in 1967. While no definitive evidence of a submersible craft has been recovered, patterns in the seafloor, unexplained disturbances, and local anomalies have kept the story alive. Scholars and enthusiasts alike emphasize that absence of evidence is not evidence of absence, particularly in a context as challenging as the Atlantic waters off Nova Scotia. The calm, methodical examination of these phenomena mirrors the original response of the RCMP and naval divers, reinforcing a continuity of careful observation that adds depth to the ongoing narrative. In addition to technological advances, psychological and sociological studies have explored the impact of the incident on both the local community and the broader UFO research field. Witnesses who observed the lights in 1967 often describe a sense of calm attentiveness, as if the experience allowed them to perceive the extraordinary without fear or panic. This response has been cited in research examining how communities process encounters with the unknown, illustrating a balance of curiosity, observation, and reflection. By preserving this calm perspective, Shag Harbour has provided a model for studying the human side of unexplained phenomena, showing that mystery can coexist with composure, reflection, and even a sense of wonder. The cultural impact extends beyond the village itself. Shag Harbour has become a reference point for other UFO studies, a benchmark of credibility that helps distinguish well-documented cases from fleeting or anecdotal reports. Conferences, research papers, and documentaries frequently cite the incident as a model of thorough observation, responsible reporting, and measured investigation. This combination of credible testimony, official scrutiny, and long-term cultural resonance has transformed a single night of strange lights into a lasting legacy, offering both intrigue and insight to those who encounter the story. Interestingly, the incident has also influenced artistic interpretations. Writers, filmmakers, and visual artists have drawn inspiration from the quiet drama of that night, the calm waters, the gentle luminescence of the object, the interplay of ordinary villagers and extraordinary phenomena. Unlike sensationalized depictions of alien invasions or catastrophic crashes, these artistic interpretations preserve the subtlety of the experience, emphasizing the gentle suspense, curiosity, and awe that characterize the Shag Harbour event. In this sense, the incident continues to inspire not just investigation, but imagination, inviting audiences to consider the unknown, with both calm and wonder. For modern listeners or travelers visiting the site, the bay retains a tangible aura of mystery. Standing on the shoreline, one can feel the same chill in the air, the subtle rhythm of the waves, and the soft luminescence of twilight reflecting on the water. Even decades later, there is a sense that the Atlantic holds secrets just beneath its surface, whispering stories of that October night. Guided tours often recreate the experience with attention to detail, pointing out the locations where villagers first observed the lights, describing the subtle foam, and recalling the systematic dives conducted by the Navy. This immersive experience reinforces the interplay between reality and mystery, allowing participants to engage with the story in a calm, reflective manner. As investigations continue, Shag Harbour serves as a bridge between past and present, observation and imagination, fact and speculation. Scientists and enthusiasts maintain a measured approach, carefully examining evidence, while acknowledging the limits of current knowledge. Villagers and historians preserve the human perspective, ensuring that the emotional and psychological resonance of the event remains central to the narrative. This balance, between methodical study and contemplative reflection, creates a space where listeners can drift into the mystery gently, absorbing both the factual and the speculative, without urgency or alarm. Ultimately, the cultural and investigative legacy of Shag Harbour lies in its ability to inspire wonder while maintaining calm. The incident demonstrates that mystery need not be frightening or chaotic. It can be observed, pondered, and appreciated with curiosity and care. By weaving together historical documentation, eyewitness testimony, and modern research, the story continues to evolve, inviting new generations to explore its depths. For listeners, this calm, layered narrative provides both intrigue and relaxation, a rare combination that makes Shag Harbour not just a UFO case, but a timeless journey into the unknown, where the mind can wander freely, while the body rests, and the imagination drifts gently over dark waters toward shimmering, unseen truths. As the night of the Shag Harbour incident recedes into history, its echoes linger in both the village and the collective imagination. The calm waters of the bay, the gentle glow of an unknown object descending silently into the Atlantic, and the quiet observation of villagers and authorities alike, all combine to create a story that is both timeless and deeply human. Unlike many mysteries, Shag Harbour is not marked by chaos or fear. It is a narrative of careful attention, curiosity, and reflection, allowing those who hear it, even decades later, to feel both intrigue and tranquility. Looking back, one can appreciate the extraordinary alignment of elements that made this event so compelling. Multiple witnesses observed the phenomenon from different vantage points, providing consistent accounts that reinforced each other. RCMP officers documented the incident with measured professionalism, and naval divers approached the waters with methodical diligence, exploring the depths with calm attention. The combination of trained observers, ordinary villagers, and natural phenomena created a rich, multi-layered record that endures in both official reports and personal recollections. It is this combination of meticulous observation and inherent mystery that has given Shag Harbour its lasting credibility and fascination. The enduring mystery lies not only in what was seen, but in what remains unseen. No definitive object was recovered. No explanation fully satisfies the range of eyewitness accounts, and yet the evidence of observation is undeniable. The lingering glow beneath the water, the foamy residue on the surface, and the reports of movement and light all point to an event that was tangible, yet defied conventional explanation. Psychologists and researchers have often highlighted the significance of such phenomena, noting that encounters with the unexplained, when experienced calmly and collectively, can profoundly shape perception, memory, and cultural storytelling. In Shag Harbour, this has manifested in a legacy of reflection and fascination, rather than fear or panic. Over the decades, the story of Shag Harbour has evolved from a local event into a cultural and scientific touchstone. UFO enthusiasts, historians, and researchers continue to study the incident, examining archival documents, conducting interviews, and visiting the site. Yet, despite advances in technology and investigation, the fundamental mystery remains intact. The Atlantic waters hold their secret, the glowing object beneath the waves remains unverified, and the subtle foam and ripples continue to inspire speculation. This unresolved nature is central to the story's enduring power. It invites the mind to explore possibilities gently, maintaining curiosity while preserving calm, a rare balance in tales of the unexplained. The psychological impact of the Shag Harbour incident also deserves attention. Witnesses often describe a mixture of wonder and quiet contemplation, a state of calm alertness that allows the extraordinary to be observed without panic. This balance is central to the story's appeal, particularly for those listening as a sleep story. The narrative demonstrates that encounters with the unknown do not need to be frightening. They can be experienced as moments of gentle curiosity, allowing the imagination to explore new horizons while the mind remains at ease. For many, this subtle emotional resonance is what transforms the story from a historical event into a meditative journey, a chance to drift into mystery while remaining grounded in reality. The cultural legacy of Shag Harbour also extends into the broader human fascination with the unknown. It serves as a reminder that even in small, quiet communities, extraordinary events can unfold that challenge assumptions, stretch the imagination, and invite contemplation. By preserving both the facts and the human responses to those facts, the story of Shag Harbour encourages a form of mindful curiosity, an openness to wonder, an attentiveness to observation, and a comfort with uncertainty. In a world often dominated by noise and certainty, this calm exploration of the unknown provides a rare space for reflection, introspection, and quiet awe. For those who revisit the bay today, or for listeners imagining the scene in their mind, Shag Harbour offers a gentle passage into the unknown. One can picture the cool Atlantic waters, the faint luminescence lingering just beneath the surface, and the quiet observation of villagers and authorities alike. The waves ripple softly, reflecting the subtle mystery of a night long past, yet somehow present in memory and imagination. Every detail, the foam drifting across the water, the hush of the shore, the soft glimmer of distant lights, serves as a reminder that mystery can coexist with calm curiosity, with serenity, and wonder with rest. In closing, the enduring mystery of Shag Harbour is not defined by answers, but by the interplay of observation, reflection, and imagination. It is a story that bridges generations, connects ordinary lives with extraordinary phenomena, and provides a template for experiencing the unknown without fear. It reminds us that some mysteries are meant to be observed, pondered, and appreciated, rather than solved. As listeners, one can drift gently through the narrative, letting the calm rhythm of waves, the soft glow of the unknown, and the measured accounts of witnesses guide the mind into rest. And so, the night of October 4th, 1967, remains alive, not just in historical records, or in media accounts, or in the memories of those who witnessed it, but in the quiet reflection it invites in all who hear the story. Shag Harbour teaches us that mystery can be serene, that observation can be mindful, and that the unknown can be a source of gentle wonder. As you drift toward sleep, imagine the calm waters, the silent descent of a glowing object, and the hushed curiosity of a small village standing quietly at the edge of the Atlantic. Let this image carry you into rest, knowing that some mysteries, like Shag Harbour, are best experienced with calm attention and a sense of quiet awe.